so if you look at Junior, there's the third one down on his list says, let me kind of explain what's here first. So these are the kind of the logs. This is the text for the narration for the full version, the industrial history and riverine issues. So the one that says industrial history, that's the one you're going to be working with. This one. So go ahead and click on that. And the way this is structured, this has what's called common parts at the top. And all these common parts, the prologue,
Flyby,
the flyby,
tutorial,
the tutorial, and the epilogue will be going into
all the versions.
All the versions. So the versions that you're doing, those are kind of common parts. And you saw that when you went through the whole version of watershed, prologue, flyby.
And I'm gonna make a comment here because this place where Mira introduced herself, it's where we usually do the pre-test. So depending, I think we can create a generic text because Mira says like, oh, we use mobile technology to help us, and then the iPad appears with the questionnaire.
So the other thing that we haven't done yet, what we did do, there's two things. What we have done is Nathan Lara, who's one of our CSE faculty, developed an API so that we can put data collection measures in the experience. And then those data collection measures go to through RedCat, go through a secure server that we have. What we haven't done yet is Tom Zalong and I and Junior haven't met to kind of talk through the items that we want. There's no immediate rush. We've got plenty to do. At some point, we'll have some pre-test measures and post-test measures, and at the end you make a choice to select your top three. So we're also going to want to capture that data for the choice you make for.
Let's do it backwards. You played, right? Did you notice that in the beginning, when they are introducing themselves, there is an iPad with some questions for you to click? That's pre-test. We are collecting some answers before the intervention, like before the person plays the game. And at the end, after they finish the trip, they go back, they report, and then Della asks like, oh, what are the three locations? And then you have to drag and drop some location. There is another way of collecting data. It's like the users, the players' personal choices. And then we do post-test. So the same test that we did in the pre-test, we ask again, and then we see if there's some differences. So what Dr. Bosin is trying to say is there will be a moment before the end of, we need to do the interface there. We have started using RedCat because we needed to make things that are totally safe to protect the participants' privacy and identity and stuff. So it's not a big deal because I'm using that also in Riverine. So you just have to change the text for whatever items they decide.
Right. Yeah, we just haven't done that yet. It's on the to-do list this summer. And we have really nice. So we spent time at the end of actually all the way through May. First couple of weeks of May, Junior and I. Nathan wrote some documentation, and then we worked through what he had, and we had to add some additional screenshots, write some additional text, so that people like me can understand it. Right? So we have documentation for that, and that's in the drive at the main root level. So
RedCat, yeah.
Yeah. So that's there. I'm hoping by the second part of our time here in Mountain Top, we'll be able to do that. That's not immediate. We're just trying to get you the big picture. Now, this one, if you scroll down, Junior, to the matrix.
I'm not in RedCat.
No, it's fine. It's in this document. It's there, right there. Okay. So in this document, what receiver says merging history and industrial history. These are the photospheres. There's 7 total that is going to be in the version that you're going to create. So one, and we'll walk you through this. So there's 1A is
Francis
Walter, and all the text for what these are right below.
Oh,
So what's above is you have like the common parts, and then below here, this is specific for the industrial history version that you're working on. And some of the highlighted stuff, just Junior has to
Yeah, we will check the translation.
just to check the translation on that. So Rockport only uses Photosphere 2A, right? That's there. Lehigh Gap only uses 3C, but some of the text comes from 3B. Walnut Port, the text comes from 4B and C, and then the note says, let's keep Photosphere 4B Photosphere. We'll need to make the historic images from 4C to 4B. Cement stays the same. Thomas Iron Works.
Also,
Is it 2 photospheres?
one,
One.
Cementon, Thomas Iron, and Allentown, Hamilton. Then, wait,
We don't have
we don't have
Allentown
them. So these 2 here, we have only one for us.
Yeah, and Thomas, go back to the matrix at the top. Okay.
So we have Francis, Rockport, Lehigh Gap over seeing where the West Plant used to be.
Yep.
Walnut Port B and C that is merged into one. So we have to decide. I think it's the what is the name? The Lock Tender's house is the photo that we usually like to prioritize in Walnut Port, which is 4B.
Yeah.
5 is Cementon, 6 is Thomas Iron,
So
8 is Bethlehem.
There's only one photosphere in Thomas Iron, I guess. Huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's always been like that.
All right. And
So
then
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
and then
7.
we have Bethlehem, which we're probably going to pick the 8. I think there's a note, maybe it says 8B on that.
8B is the steel stacks,
Yeah.
like in front of the arch
Yeah.
quest, so you can see that.
Yeah, I think that's. So let's take a look at the note down there for Bethlehem.
Yeah, text
Yeah.
combines photosphere less, so we should probably use photosphere 8A because that's the one that we see the Lehigh River.
Right. Okay.
And that we also see
Yeah.
the steel stacks, but
Yeah, so that's the one. And we'll have to combine the historical imagery on that too. So the text is written out here. So this is the end result text that we want to have, and it's slightly. It's a little different than the original text. There's some edits.
and this text I asked everyone that worked in Watershed Explorers for us to use this system because we are using a text database, a text comma separated value file. And then that does, we're gonna see when we download the project is the first column is a code like A1, and then the second column is what the text for A1 is in English. The third column is what the text for A1 is in Spanish. So in the game, when we choose English, we save the value English as language, and when we put the code A1, when in runtime we hit play, the text appears in English. So using like this, it's much faster for us to have control of the entire text of a game. We also can do the localization, which is like the translation and adaptation very easily. Because when you and all of us, developers or programmers are making the thing, we don't have to worry which language we are using. We just need to worry about the code. And then when we are like setting up the structure, you see like everything is coded. A1, C1, that, underline, whatever the code is. So we will see that when the time comes. So this is easier for us to work together, edit, translate, and stuff. But then once it's done, we will have like Kavya help us like update our database so that we don't have to burn time in that. Our focus here is literally programming and developing, deploying the headset version because everything is done. We just need to make the final tweaks. Not just, I have this terrible, we do a lot of amazing things. It's not just, we have to do this. All right, Dr. Bozzi, what would you like to do now? This is the text.
Yeah.
You show the 7 photospheres.
Yeah, so I think they're good with that. You know where that is. I guess what we need to do next is get
Make questions, both of you, as many questions you want.
Questions.
Okay.
So maybe what we need to do now is go into Unity Hub and get Watershed Explorer's full version on our machines, right?
So you should be repeating what I'm doing here on the screen.
Right.
So like for the file for like the text images, like for the one that we choose from, like for the actual download, is it safe in Unity or is it safe somewhere else?
It's in the project we are downloading now.
You know?
So just like I said yesterday, but I'm going to repeat because we are recording, we'll be using 2 versions. We will be using the desktop version from the full version because then all the assets, all the photos here, they are there, right? And we also be working with the VR version. This VR version also already exists because I am developing the first mini version, which I'm calling iVR1 green. It's the environmental one. Yours is iVR yellow, the industrial one, because it's only about history, industrial history, both. So in plastic, you branch out from my version and change everything, say, so only for your version. So in plastic, we will have the version for full version, whatever. Then we have the environmental version that is VR, and then you will make another branch for your version. So 2 versions will be done at the same time, completed at the same time, which is the one I'm using and the one they are using in the stream.
So I see the iVR1 green. Is it watershed? There's a lot of different watershed.
There are many
explorers.
watershed
Yeah,
explorers.
so which one do we want to download?
So in my computer, I already have Watershed Explorers 2022 because that's the one that we used for the study last year in the summer. So that's the most complete one.
All right, so hold on. Watershed Explorers 2022.
So for everyone who doesn't have that, you gotta click this arrow.
I see one says Watershed Explorers _ Bodson.
Yeah, the one Bodson I wrote because I was creating a version for your grant, with the questions for your grant. When Nate comes back from vacation, one thing that I'm gonna do with him, hi Nate, we need to consolidate the projects and delete the old projects from like over 4 years.
All right, so it's the one that says Watershed Explorers 2022 is the one that you want us to download.
Let me just check here. Watershed Explorers.
That says it was modified a year ago.
Here.
That one?
Watershed Explorers 2022.
All right. On my version, just so you know, it says modified a year ago. Is that accurate?
So if you have that, oh no, it's correct. Because this modified here doesn't work out. It's a Unity glitch. Don't trust that.
Don't trust that. All right. So Watershed Explorers 2022.
Yeah, the only thing that you can trust is to see the ones that you already have in your computer, which is added. Like in my case, Watershed Explorer 2022 is already added to this computer I'm using.
All right, project users class.
Make sure.
And I have it. It's telling me to use my current platform 2020.3.27 F1.
It's correct. Let me see. We need to show this somehow.
Like going to get me an error article.
So I'm okay to open with 2020.3.27 F1. I'm just reading off what I'm before I click to download, just make
This what you're reading is in the tutorial. I know what you're talking about. When you click to download, Unity Hub shows you a warning that is outlined in orange that like you need to use 2019 or up higher for you to be able to use plastic. And then below, it tells you you have this version 2020.3. Something F1 LTS, because all of us have been working with 2020.3 since the beginning of the year, so you're fine.
All right.
People that haven't been working with us, if sometimes they will have two orange things because they don't have the version that is recommended, so they will have to download 2020.3.27 F1, I guess. Is it 27? No, I don't. He has that. It's in the tutorial. And then you download it first, and then you can go back to UniHub and download the project from the cloud. Because you cannot download the project from the cloud if you don't have the corresponding Unity version in your computer to work with.
Now, I have one more tangential question, and you may not know the answer. You might do a little research. And again, I haven't had time to look at the Oculus 3 announcement. But when we're making this for Quest 2 headset, will it also work in Quest 3 headsets?
That's a great question. What we believe is that it should, because Quests is the same family. It's just like new iterations, right? The same way we are developing for, actually we are not developing for Quest 2. We are developing for MetaQuest.
Right.
So for example, I'm using MetaQuest 1 from 3 years ago. We are going to be using MetaQuest 2 here for the current version, and it should be compatible with MetaQuest 3.
Because it's the Go line that was discontinued.
Yes, the Go,
Okay, so it's gotcha. All right, I understand.
What we might not, and it's also not our intent to use the MetaQuest Pro, because then the architecture, the hardware is different. So there should be something different in Unity for us to do. But MetaQuest is all the same. It's just like siblings.
But the MetaQuest 3 should be fine. I'm just thinking, I've got 2 grant proposals that I'm
you
working
should
on.
be. So
we should be buying
the latest one.
3.
Yeah.
All right, not to mess with the budget and all that. That's all right. We haven't submitted it. It's one of yours. Thanks.
So it's downloading, right?
Yeah. I'm just opening up the project.
Importing.
So when we do this, just for everybody online to have another conversation about that, because this is should be in the tutorial in Foresight. This is the first way for us to download a project that is in the cloud using Unity Hub. Because you are logged in with your Lehigh account, which is our lab's institutional account with Unity, and Plastic, which is now DevOps. So here on the top left corner, we always make sure that Unity Hub is logged in, because if it's not, nothing will work. That's the first mandatory checklist. Then by doing this, clicking the open arrow, open remote project, we are literally putting our hands in the cloud and downloading to our computer. So the connection with Plastic is already done, right? So, and then once it finishes downloading, it gets the source control badge on the name of the listed project to remind you the computer and the version control system, which is Plastic, is like taking care of that project. The other way that we can do this is what you were talking to Juan yesterday. We can go to Plastic and not Unity Hub and download the repository from the cloud. But then you still need to open that project in Unity. And the way we do that, it's coming here, but instead of open remote project, we add project from disk, because you already downloaded from the cloud. So that project comes with the meta files like Plastic controlled files. So once you click add from disk, you locate where you downloaded the project, and everything it should work. So when you go back to the Plastic interface, Um, that project should be listed here in the repositories you have with the child, right?
Why is your plastic blue? Like the icon's blue.
This is because that's the process of they are updating
Okay.
everything. I think that sucks because we did a tutorial with everything orange, and it was like 1 week before we did, and then they changed. So it
Mine's
should.
still
So for you, that's a very important thing as well. The more up to date your plastic is, less issues you have, right? Because they are doing a lot of glitch repairing, and for you to check for downloads, it's usually here on the top right corner. Like maybe I already have one update here. And they are also trying to change the name from plastic for Unity version control. It's the fifth time they are
Sure.
changing name in 2 years. So I'm gonna do this right now because that's what we should be doing all the time, making your version control, the plastic software, most up to date. So I am 4 versions behind.
I'm
So
probably like 50.
all of you should be a lot more.
All right, hold on. Update version control. I should be doing last.
Yes.
I'm gonna wait till this downloads.
Yeah. Wait for the download to finish first, and then after you download the update, on the bottom right corner, it says it was installed. I'm sorry, it was downloaded. It's ready to install. So you click restart and upgrade.
That will restart the computer.
No, just plastic.
How long does it take you to like update the plastic? Like how long does it take you to update?
Fast.
From your
It's not.
I also tried like downloading the version for the VR version. Last thing I want to try like opening some this because it's saying like some error like invalid project or something. Actually, I just like try to re-download the project and last thing again.
What's uninstalling it?
Oh, but they do this by themselves. This was very well developed, at least. Don't worry about that. I'm gonna help you download both projects correctly. One thing both of you should worry is, in this lab, we don't have good connection, Wi-Fi. So you need to capitalize on our
Ethernet.
AM cables.
Unless you have a Mac. Like me.
But we have some, Dr. Hammond has purchased a hub for us. The key is here, right? So
So Junior, when you're ready, I have a question.
Oh, you do that.
So I've downloaded. So it tells me right now. I mean, I downloaded, from the whole project, Watershed courses. I've got it open in Unity, and it says just untitled Watershed Explorers.
Yeah, I got that.
I guess I have to.
it's because,
You have to grab it from plastic.
no, it's that thing that I said yesterday. Whenever you download a project from the repository, it leaves you in the main branch. You gotta go to plastic and move you to the latest change set
All right, so
on the branch explorer.
all right, so to pull it out, that's right now it's showing from yesterday, right? Like you have the
Mhm.
story. So now I have to open, right? the
No,
workspace?
click the house.
Okay.
So you have Watershed Explorer. See, this is the cloud, and this is the local version you have just downloaded.
Right.
And then you click the blue button, open this workspace.
From here, no.
You can click that.
Then open.
Yeah, so you can either open here, or there is a shortcut here that is also a blue button. Move here, yeah, this one. This one or this one is the same. So now you added Watershed Explorers to this list of quick selection.
Okay.
If you go to Branch Explorer now,
So I have some. Yeah, it's all like the.
this you should delete this because that's the difference between your computer's packages
All right.
to the projects. It was not you, but you should delete that. I mean, undo.
Undo.
Okay, now you don't have pending changes, and then we'll change here. Don't worry, people online, we will do this together as well. So Dr. Bodzin is going to the test in the branch explorer because he needs to open up the time filter for him to see all the changes in the project. So, so this is the main branch. Whenever you download a project, it puts you in the latest version of the main branch. But here we have, this is the complete version, and this is the branch that I used to create the environmental desktop version.
Or just environmental issues.
Yeah, for desktop. This is not the project in VR. In the project in VR, we are using another repository to avoid like conflicts.
Oh wait, this is supposed to happen.
Yeah, this is the thing that I told you about the code. This is not. This is the placeholder text.
Oh, okay. These aren't got this up already. So is it supposed to be in base version?
Yeah, base version. So no, this is the base version of Watershed Explorers for WebGL. So this is the complete version that we used last year.
Okay.
And you are already here.
Yeah, I mean, just clicked it, yeah.
Oh, you can go back to even now.
All right.
Jonah, how is it going over there?
I'm currently updating my.
Close this room back.
This whole thing there?
Yeah, click the right button in Plasticus. Close that. So you can see all the iVR1 is the folder that we have everything Watershed Explorers.
All right, and then just to get it started, what do I?
Scenes.
Scenes.
Perfect.
Like go this slider to the left because it's
How
easier
do I get to
to
where you are? I'm here.
Oh, I noticed that you want to see like
so you can have gaming, it's
the
this part.
Mac, but I want to see iVR1 seeing
This is the first scene of Watershed Explorers.
All right, so each of these are.
Yes, yes, yes.
What's one of the random ones?
Yeah, I looked at that.
I go to bed now.
So can you see that this is like this kind of lost because your scene is in 3D. If you click to this, it's gonna put the thing like a point to it. And then you click twice on the screen space canvas. Yeah, click twice there.
So like for the Lehigh Gap Nature Center, the reason.
Oh.
Oh,
So I'm not seeing anything here, and that's
Because
because.
there is a fade effect that is this dark screen. This is one of the things we need to decide whether it stays or we remove for the new iteration.
If I actually see the photospheres, what do I do?
So this fade screen is housed under game mechanics. So open this game mechanics, it's the crossfade. Click crossfade and disable the game object. So this is the place. So that is just like a curtain that we put to fade in and fade out when the place starts running.
So, can I borrow one to make the Ethernet converters?
I'm-
What's it called again? Like the Ethernet cable? I also don't have like an Ethernet port.
We have here. No, this is for Mac. Where is the You don't have a cable for Ethernet?
No, I have
Or
HDMI and USB.
So did you stop using yours? Did you finish downloading everything?
yeah.
So you can now put yours here.
Oh.
Until we have another one.
Oh.
Because I didn't know. This
Oh,
was
okay.
meant for Mac people. Because they are unfortunately
USB-C.
they are
Yeah,
unfortunately segregated digitally speaking.
Yeah.
But it seems some PCs are following suit, and then they are just removing everything.
Does he need to borrow my cable?
No, it's good. What about plastic?
Oh, yeah,
It's still orange. Click here. Good here, right? It's orange here and blue here. Check for updates. You are up to date. Are you up to date with plastic as well?
Yes.
Great. Dr. Bodzi, are you up to date with plastic?
Yeah, I have to.
All right, so we are ready to continue.
Mine said, oh, problem detected while reporting the prefab file. It's giving me,
This is something that we will have to ask our associates to do those, the kind of audit that we started with Jessica de Los Santos. What should I do here? We are going to watershed explorers. So everyone online, you have to follow the tutorial in CoreSite because they have just done everything that is in CoreSite. They downloaded their projects from the cloud into their personal computers, and the outcome is when you open UnderTheHood like this, you will be able to open the project called Watershed Explorers 2022. I should have been open. No, like yeah, it's opening now.
Yeah, because the screen's full and the room's full. And it's using these.
And again, just for us to be on the same page, this session is an Watershed Explorers Under the Hood. We are going to be walking every step of the game and like taking a look at the Unity inspector and hierarchy to see how everything was done. We know that not everything was done like effectively because we were learning along the years. So our goal here is to understand, but also to see how we can simplify the game. When you download, let me go to plastic. So when you download the project, sometimes the project is not going to be readily available on this drop-down list, like I do have it here. If you don't have it here, you should go to this house and you find in the list of repositories the one that you've just downloaded, which in this case it's Watershed Explorers 2022. Here. And under the first level is the repository. You can see the icon even like it's a rectangle connected to the cable. It's the repository online. If you have a sub folder and you can see the folder, it means this is the project in your computer, which is our case. Click here. It's going to tell you the size of the project and where it's saved in your computer. There are 3 locations you can click to open the project. Here, open workspace, this blue button. Here, workspace, the same button, but it's not blue. And here, the blue button in a shorter version. So you click here, and it should open on this side for you. So we are in the cloud, in our labs repository, the Lehigh River Immersive Learning repository, in the project repository called Watershed Explorers 2022, in change set number 7. Let's see what that means. Here. So Junior, I am working in the environmental version. So I branched, you can see this arrow here, from change set number 5 to change set number 7. But we want to be here on change set number 6 because it's the base version. What does that mean? I went back and I removed all the environmental related assets, and I made a note that this base version that has the green halo is the Watershed Explorers complete version for WebGL. So for me to be able to go back here, I need to delete my pending changes in the current computer I have. So these changes were not me because like manifest JSON packages, it's mostly the computer who like is changing. There is one script here that it seems to have been me, and then in the bottom part it shows you the difference. So yes, look at that. On the original code, the name of the scene was Francis with capital letters, too. But then I updated the script and I had to make like a correction, Francis with like lower letters, because otherwise it wouldn't work. You can see here also that Rockport hasn't been fixed, so this is something that we have to do together, and I was just finding issues. Since it's not completely done, I'm gonna undo everything. So we select here, undo, undo, and then I'll be able to go back to, uh, change set number 6. So we click with the right button and switch workspace to this change set.
Is there a reason why mine's purple? Actually?
Mine's purple.
I don't know, maybe it's like Mac preferences, I don't know.
Is yours blue?
Yeah.
Okay, it's about a Mac then.
Yeah.
Oh, yours is purple. Okay.
All right, so we are ready. After you change, you see the house. Where the house is, it's where your computer actually is. You go back, Unity is gonna unload and download everything. That's why it says resolving packages. And for you to be able to see the project, you need to have the project window like visible. Sometimes the project window is docked, like under something else. For example, here, the project is docked, so you don't see it very readily. So I highly recommend putting the project folder under the hierarchy so that you can see both, like the hierarchy is where you are putting together the pieces of your game or your project, and the project window, it's the actual representation of the folders in your computer. So this is not the game. This is the files, folders, and assets that you're using to create your game in the hierarchy window. Okay? So since Watershed Explorers had lots of iterations and like add-ons, like features we created, along the years, I housed the entire project under iVR1 folder. So you should go to iVR1 folder, scenes, and then you find all the scenes for the game. Sometimes your unit is gonna be showing you this view, like with big icons. This is not recommended because it doesn't help you read very well. So use the slider on the bottom right corner and drag it to the left so that you can read the list of files. And the first scene we'll be using is the game menu. Don't save anything in this stage because Unity, and please Unity fix that. It's telling us that the scene has been modified, but it actually hasn't. It's because the computer's memory is still like holding up on the previous version that I had before I downloaded an older version in plastic. This is kind of weird, but do not save anything now. Just say don't save, otherwise you're gonna overwrite thanks to the current scene. So now that the game menu has been opened, we are about to start. Let me just pause this recording real quick. Where is the thing? Here. No, of course not. That's not professional.
Yeah, man.
Dr. Bodzin, so the car is here. We are gonna open the hood. You
All right.
tell us what.
Are you starting the record again?
Yeah, we are recording again.
Okay. No, I mean, I guess the key thing here is to just kind of get us under the hood to show us what works and where things are and what we're going to need to modify. This is the key
All right.
thing.
Kwan, I'm very interested about your suggestion yesterday about the wrinkles. There are something that are extra, and like there are many, because back in the day, Deiji and I we were learning Unity, and we were kind of like pioneers because there was no many products, right? So lots of choices here, are not the best, are not best practice, but they are working because we always start our projects like make it work first
And then go
and
back.
then you polish. It's the post production.
Yes.
So today we are in post production for Watershed Explorers.
So for the riverine issues when you've been cleaning code and doing things different too.
Yeah, but I've done that for the VR version, so they can already have access to a cleaner version.
Okay.
Yeah, because like the way we did in 2020, it was a lot of manual drag and dropping, a lot of time.
So
So
just so we're all on the same page. So with the full version, there's probably going to be some code that y'all will look at. You're going to look at the code and ask yourself, can this be cleaner? But I think what you're going to see is you'll at the same time also take a look at his version that he's been working on for the short because he's made some code cleaning things, which I assume you're going to show us today too. Yeah. And so some of that stuff you'll be able to port right over into
Yep.
the version that you're working on.
Oh, it's just shooting around. It's like when I say Windows, like there was some part of the game that like when you open the photos and then when you escape the photos, like it automatically goes into your gallery. Like your interactable stuff like it disappears, right?
Mhm.
In the environment. Like what's the key? Because I would enjoy like seeing it like in relative to your like environment. Instead of like having to go into the gallery and just like scroll down all the way.
Yes, I see.
Those other tools.
that's a very nice comment, and this was also provided to us along the years. The reason why Watershed Explorers is blocking the user from clicking that again, it was because of gameplay flow. Because we use this in research, currently are using in research, we need to always keep in mind that we need to keep the players moving forward. And when we allow them to click again, or even go back photos here, we were like elongating that time. Instead of having the thing like 15, 30 minutes, they were lost there and they were not going to the next stages, right? So there were many tweaks along the years, just like this one you mentioned. We needed to say like, you consumed the media, it's disabled. You cannot see unless you go to your gallery. Because the gallery, which we call like explorer tools, it's like the collection of knowledge and discoveries you made in your exploration. So that was the rationale. But what you said makes sense. In a version that is like in the future that is not being used for research anymore, we can make sure that the experience is all usable, you know.
Wouldn't this be the version? I mean, if there's some changes that we think we want to make in terms of X, I do agree with Junior here. Going even with 7 photospheres, and I don't remember the locations, it's 4 or 5 locations. You want to keep everybody moving forward. That's important. You don't want people going backwards because you're taking a canoe trip down the river, right? The other thing is what we found in the usability studies that we did, people weren't using the galleries. They weren't visiting things, and they forgot that it was there. And so one of the things that we had talked about for, I guess, this version would be somehow putting after, I think what we decided was after we talked about it, we haven't done this, was maybe after the first photosphere, you go through, or the second photosphere.
The reminder is already there.
They're already there, okay.
This was the first iteration. The second iteration that we got from last year after the full implementation was that whenever there is a highlighted word, instead of showing just a tooltip, we should show a mini version of the glossary entry, like the photo, the beginning, and if you click that tooltip, it opens the glossary for you. So it's a shortcut for the glossary. Instead of having to click progress, glossary, so we are simplifying the path, you know.
And the other one more thing which we didn't mention it too, with these shorter versions, even though we're developing for VR, we still want to have a shorter version that works on the web.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking the workflow pathway trail might be, let's get the shorter version to work first on the desktop, so it's all together,
Because
right?
it's easier to test, faster.
Because that'd be quicker to test. And then, and we think here, and I think that's probably going to, by the end of week 2 here, we should be able to get that.
Tops.
Yeah, if not sooner. And then we have that, and we make that, here's this, and we can make it a branch path and say, okay, here's WebGL for industrial history for, the WebGL version. And then we have another branch for the VR version, where we're going to have to really tweak a lot of the code to make the interface for a lot of UI changes.
Yeah. So most, like lots of code I already was able to tweak, and the ones I couldn't, I'm bringing to you, just like that tooltip situation there. But then because we are thinking together, the answer comes up. When we are by ourselves in the cave, it's hard, right? So, okay, so one thing that we can see here that it's not ideal is that there is no game object organizer. For example, when we create a game empty game object, and we do like this, for example, system. So this game object doesn't have anything. It's just, oops, a sec. It's just a game object for us to like delineate the space of the hierarchy for you to know where things are. You can also use these organizers to hold scripts. Why is it a good practice? Because these organizers, like here, they are in the first level of the hierarchy. So if you need to have a child or a grandchild run a script, you will be dragging and dropping this organizer to the on-click button, and it's faster, easier than having like to access in the code. Find this game object, find this component in children, and then it goes. So this is one of a possible way, not only for organizing visually, but also to facilitate the pathway finding for the code. Other types of organizers, we click with the right button, duplicate, and then we press F2 to rename, is for instance, UI. Like it might be, it doesn't have like a fixed order, but for example, everything that is on a canvas, it's UI. So this should be under UI. Narration. The narration in Watershed Explorers is also UI because there is a panel and buttons for you to interact. So it should be here, under UI. Screen help canvas. Again, if you have a canvas, it's going to be UI. The canvas is the virtual space, usually 2D, like X and Y. Y and X, sorry, X and Y, for you to be able to put things. It's literally like, just like those painters had white canvases, here we have a transparent virtual canvas. So screen help canvas, it should be under UI. So you see here how much UI this project has, right? It's literally like interface, 2D interfaces for you to interact with. And system, like game mechanics, it was the way of organizing we found back in the day. But it's not very helpful for like lingo for everyone to understand. For example, this event system should be right here under system, main camera under the system, an audio manager under the system. So the question is for you and all of us. Now, are we just seeing how things work, or are we making the changes as well?
Have you made these organizations structural
No.
in your version yet?
No, because I'm still in the production mode, because I need to make sure that the VR version works at the end. So I'm not using time doing this because other students can do, like the associates. That's why we're talking about this, because it helps establish the good practices we learned, right?
Yeah.
If we're gonna stop doing this, we're gonna start doing this like for the C, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
and we do this, well, you saw Mystery of the Lehigh Gap, how it's organized,
Yeah.
right? We have a good organization system that's Mystery of the Lehigh Gap. It's similar to what you're proposing here. It's just that, like Peter said, when we started doing Water Explorers, it was done many years ago. We didn't have that.
Nothing
Yeah, we didn't have
system.
anything.
So I guess my recommendation would be, yeah, let's come up with the organization system now,
Yep.
and then we can start applying it to everything.
Oh, but Juan made a very interesting comment slash question. We should change in every scene. But since you're gonna be creating a new version out of scratch, what I've been doing for environmental versions is I work on one photosphere and I call this photosphere like the model photosphere. So in that photosphere, I put everything the game has. So I put a link for aerial photos, I put a link for video, I put a link for like information sign, I put narration, I put the question, I put all the functionality so that we then can duplicate that and just disable the things or enable things, functionalities for each scene. So you won't have to be doing this manually every scene. You just work on one scene and then you duplicate it and change the name so it's much faster.
Yeah, I like that. That's smart.
So this is just like the idea we have been cooking in the past few years, but we are not going to apply right now. Um, let's take a look at game mechanics. Take a look at how many scripts we have here. And like many of these scripts, they were removed along the way because the game went through iterations. And what others are still here. For example, the first one, language manager. This language manager script, it holds the variable which language did you choose, English or Spanish. And you can see here that there is a selected language variable. Once the game starts running, it populates, like here selected language is English. How did this happen? Like currently is empty when we are not playing, but when we hit play, it goes to English. This happens because we are using a player pref system. Like player pref is a class in Unity that exists to hold some information for the gameplay, right? So when we hit play, uh, the first method in the start method, it checks in the player prefs class what was the last choice that the user made. So in this case, it was English. I'm gonna change this real quick just to show you. For example, if we go to options and I click Spanish, this language is gonna change to Spanish. See? And how did this do? Like this word English and Spanish, these buttons, they are the game objects that we call check EN for English and check ESP for Spanish. So once we click English in the options canvas, let's see here where it is, canvas, settings panel, central panel, text language, and then we have check English and check Spanish game objects. Look. So when we click the button Spanish, it disables the check mark for English, it enables the check mark for Spanish, but it also sends to the player prefs that the variable is Spanish. So look at that. Click. So it disabled the check mark for English, it enabled the check mark for Spanish, and it changed the language from English to Spanish. So because because the language is Spanish here now, the language manager script is telling all the game, like in the translation localization system, to read the Spanish column of the database. So that's why all the words change. We don't have to be typing that manually. All right? We can always repeat very slowly. We will always like be going inside the script to take a look at that. you can see that the language manager like lives under the scripts folder. Let me go back there. Once it's finished loading. The language manager script lives under iVR1 scripts, and you can always see the pathway here. So iVR1 scripts localization language manager. And there are other scripts that work together with the language manager. But let's take a look at the language manager first. So these three variables here are the ones that I just showed you in the inspector. Where is that? Here. Here. So the inspector, we have language manager, and we have three variables. Selected language, which is this one, public string selected language. Since we didn't define the variable here, like equals, for example, Portuguese. Oops, I'm sorry. It's a string, so it needs to be between quotation marks. So if I do this, when I'm declaring the variable, I'm already defining what the value of the variable will be in Unity. Okay? In this case, like the original case, I didn't have Portuguese. I just had public string selected language, so it's empty. And I had two public game objects, which is check English and check Spanish, and it's here. I needed to drag it manually from the hierarchy to the inspector slot. Every scene, I guess. When you are using Visual Studio Complete, I don't know about Visual Studio Code, when you make a change in your code and you are not saving yet, it's yellow. And you also have the asterisk, okay? So if I save here, it becomes green. It shows me you saved all the latest changes. And if I go back to Unity, Unity compiles the code, and we should expect seeing Portuguese appear in the selected language now. Wait, where is that? Maybe it's gonna be in gameplay? Now, so wait, what's going on? Is it not the way we assign a variable?
There might be something later down.
Oh yeah, the start. So the start is overwriting the stuff. Okay, so
The setting. Yeah.
too much for examples. It's not time for examples. So when the thing becomes blue, it's because you undid all the actions and it became the original state. So you save it again, so you know that it became to the original state. So in every scene, we have a game mechanics, game object, that holds a language manager, script, and when the scene starts, it reads this code here in the void start. So it checks it makes a scene check to see what is the name of the scene. And we are getting the name of the scene from the scene manager, which is a native functionality of Unity. And then the first thing we do, we get the name of the scene and we save it as a string. Then we check what scene it is. So if the name of the scene is game menu, which in this case it is game menu, it's going to set the language to English. What is it doing? Every person that starts playing Watershed Explorers, the default language is English, right? I don't know why this check language is here. Maybe it's something from the past, but oh, okay, I know now. If the scene is not game menu, like you are not starting the game, every scene when we load the scene, it doesn't run this because the scene is not going to be game menu. It's going to be like Francis Walter. It's going to be Bethlehem. So this if statement is not going to be run, and we're going to be checking the language. So when we check this language, we see down here, where is that? Check language. We are going to player prefs and finding this string called language. And if the string is equals English, we define the language to English. If it's not English, it's going to read the next block. If it's this string language is equals Spanish, it's going to set the language to Spanish, right? So this is run every the beginning of every scene. I don't remember what this does. Else, if select the language equals Spanish, what we do? Mm, So this might be a place we can simplify this check language method. I don't remember now, but it's working. So we can check this. You can check this later, how to make this simpler, but without breaking the rest of the scene, right?
Yep.
Good. Let's go back now. Here, we are calling this like set language, set language. So we have these public methods that control what happens in the UI. Not only it saves the language, but it also changes the UI in the options system. Here, let's play it again. Options. So we enable the settings options panel, right? In Watershed Explorers, we try to organize the panels like there is a top panel that contains an icon, the title of the panel, and the close button. So you can see here like, I'm sorry, settings container. So there is a game object holding all these elements. There is the settings header, which is the top. I'm gonna go to scene view, so it's showing here. So the top contains text, the title, an image, which is the icon, and the button to close. And there is a visual one that is the separator game menu. Separator is just this yellow like thing. But all of these four are living under the settings header. I'm going to explain this structure only here because it applies to all the other panels. Okay?
Wait, hold on, I'm not. Wait, hold on. It's under render canvas settings. Settings.
Settings container.
Container.
Settings container is one game object that has no components but direct transform. Why do we use this? let's take a look here. This is very interesting. To make it easier for you to change the size of the UI afterwards, if you have a game object that holds.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So I don't. So how do you get the options to display?
Oh, I am in game mode.
Oh, you're
now.
in game mode. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay.
So we were talking about like the settings panel. This is the parent, and where we put the scripts. This is also where the back shader is leaving this image here. This black shader. If I disable, the shader goes away because we need to separate what is in the forefront and what is in the background. So this black shader is best practice to help you guide the user's attention to what you want them to interact with. But I was talking about this strategy of having a container. So a container is only one game object. You can see here that I don't even care about the size. Like you can see here that the blue bounding boxes, circles, it's here. It's just communicating. This is the position of this parent, but this parent has lots of elements which are being rendered. Why do we do this? Because once we have a container, we can change the scale and increase everything together. We don't have to go but every element one by one. So if the UI is too large, you go there and make it 1. In our case, the optimal size for computer was 2. In the headset, we have to do a lot of trial and error to see which one is going to be the one, right? One thing that is important to bear in mind is that we are using 2D UI. So the Z doesn't matter because if you put 1 or 100 or like, I think 0 also doesn't affect because in 2D there is no depth like the Z axis. So we just leave it at 1, okay? Unless you are using fake 3D UI that we're going to be seeing when we do VR development. So we saw the container strategy, we saw the header, central panel, and sometimes there is a bottom panel, but it's going to be communicated in the hierarchy for you to know what are the parents of the elements you have. For example, here, NPC sprite. So everything that is regarding the NPC, we house under NPC sprite. So we have the foreground activated, but sometimes the NPC is not talking, so we have to activate the background one, so it gets shaded in the background. That's not the case for watershed explorers in the scenes, but it is the case when we are in the VNL museum. Sometimes Della is speaking, but the watershed explorers are not, so we need to activate the foreground and the background techniques. Central panel, this is where all the things are. For you to remind yourself of where the elements are, be sure that you are in the scene view, not in the game view. The game view, you play the game, and it shows you how it's being rendered. And in fact, this is wrong. This game should be 1. Wait. Like this is weird because let me see full screen. Maximize like this. So this is how it's being rendered in the computer screen regardless of size, because we made sure that our canvases, they follow the reference resolution of full HD 1920 by 1080. So let's say that I want to like do this. The canvas, this is bad like news. The canvas should be resizing. So this is a fix that we need to make together. Uh, when you configure the canvas correctly, when the screen size changes, everything either shrinks or expands. Okay, we learned this like last summer after 4 years of making mistakes. So it was a long haul. That's why in this version here, it's still working, but it's not ideal. And we need to fix that. Please take notes.
Would resizing matter if we're porting it to VR anyways? Because VR has one size, which is just
That's an excellent question. And I think the answer is no, because when we use in VR, we use canvases that are 3D in the world. So there won't be resizing.
yeah.
It's just like, let's say that the piece of paper is my 3D that they call world space canvas.
Yep.
So I'm gonna put the canvas here because it's gonna be easier for you to read.
Right.
He's gonna be like affected. He's gonna be having to move his head around here to read this canvas. Or we as the developers, we will need to put some kind of mechanism around the canvas to allow the user to change the view.
I think there's a way you can like, based off where the person's looking, like it'll follow your like,
Yeah, it's already
know,
the version we have has this.
has that. Okay.
But sometimes this is annoying for the user. We will see that when we start testing.
Okay.
So since we already know that this happens because of like others project, we can and we are already making the choice of like offering 2 possibilities. This is like the follow head workspace. Like I'm looking here, it's following my head, right?
Yep.
And you can allow them to control the speed that is following because
Right.
it might cause motion sickness. Or you can like allow them to click like fixed location. So you stop the movement, and then if I move my head, it stays here, whatever I opened. Oculus, thank goodness, they have that. We have to get the control. They have that that button. That is the not this one. The Oculus button, which stays here. This button here, when we click it, like we point forward where we are looking forward and we click and hold, it recenters the screen.
Yep.
So even if the player in Watershed Explorers or the High Gap Story, it's in a fixed canvas mode and they look like that, oh, I'm lost. We're gonna make sure in the tutorial that once we hold the button, everything is gonna be in front of their faces again.
Yep.
Right? This is a standard VR interface.
Yeah, that's not so my three wanted to be like this.
Yes. It should be like this because, like, for instance, your size of this laptop screen is definitely not the same size of the Mondo Pad screen, right? So I don't want maximize, so here, and I'm gonna resize it so we can see.
Also, I'm just trying to visualize in VR the characters, right? The characters we have on the start screen. Is our plan to like have them in like a 3D space, like kind of like I'm just trying to visualize when you have the headset on and you're looking at the game menu, those characters like around you. Like, would it be like a 2D UI thing where they just follow you too, kind of?
This is a very excellent and extremely important question for everybody also online. So the stage of the VR development we are like level 55 already. But in the beginning, the people don't even talk about that anymore. There used to be a 180 degrees VR development in which you only made half of this here. So, and that's where the curved UI came to life. Because then people, like, they were guided to look only in this area of the 180 degree, but if you did like this, it was black, right? So, with the evolution of these, like, photos and everything in the 3D environment development, we took the leap to create a 360 enveloping environment, but we still can choose whatever works best. For example, in this case, in the computer, it's using all this screen. But in VR, it's going to be like here, right? Let's imagine I'm in VR and they are here in front of me. So there is one fixed canvas. It's not following our head. So, like, let's say I am here with my headset and then it's in front of me. Great. But then, like, oh, this is a beautiful place. So they are already immersed, which is great, right? But then, like, where is the UI? If the tutorials are like, oh, center the screen so it's gonna be in front of the face. Or you can choose to activate the follow you, so it's gonna be following you, right?
Would it be cool to have like the characters kind of spread? So like, let's say like you're looking at the screen over here, and if I look to my left, you see one character that makes you want to look around. Like, hey, look,
this is cool.
Look, there's a donkey over there.
This is very cool.
Yeah,
that's a very cool idea.
Yeah.
Something that has been widely used, and we have seen lots in those Harvard studies, including the acid ossification study, is that whenever the user is immersed and they are not looking where you need them to look, they use an arrow, like, to guide you, even in games as well, right? So I like your idea because it's like an evolution of that arrow. That arrow is boring sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, look here. I don't want to look there. I want to take my time and look at the place.
Creative freedom.
Yeah. So if you spread the characters around you, that's a very nice idea. Yeah. So I apologize for joining his idea. So even the main menu can become a sort of tutorial because we can show them that looking around is possible by just moving the head. We can show that then we can put one of the buttons next to each character, like Della is the main character, right? So if you want to start button is going to be next to Della. Options is usually displayed with lens. So we are introducing the characters, but also introducing the affordance of the immersive stuff and the clicking to follow and not follow your head. That seems to be a very nice idea. Otherwise, we have to alter the tutorial for the game itself.
Yep.
Because you played the desktop version, it's showing how to use the functionalities inside the game, but not the functionalities of the hardware.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Um, just for everybody to know, the quit button is set up, it's working, but when you are in Unity, when you click quit, it doesn't work because the quit application function is created to work when it's deployed. So when you have a baked version running and you click the quit button, it closes everything. In the Unity window, it doesn't close, so it's not a button. Okay.
Yeah, also on WebGL, if you put it, like if you press the click button, it just like freeze the whole game or something.
Because this is another excellent question. In WebGL, is a different architecture. It's not PC standalone, right? So you have to remember that WebGL will have different like space configuration because it's the browser window space. And also, when you hit quit, what are you quitting? So if you
Yeah.
that it freezes because you are still in a browse window. So it just freezes. So one way for us to address the WebGL quit is to add one line of code to close the current open tab. So you not only quit the application for the computer to start processing that, but you also ask the method application quit to close the current window so that when you quit, it closes. All right? Good. Let's just check the recording because we have a limit of 2 hours. We are still at 42 minutes. Good, yay.
It's really only been 42 minutes.
Huh?
It's really been only 42 minutes. I feel like it's been going long.
Because we paused.
We did fine.
Oh, we did pause.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, huh, that doesn't add up. Definitely fun.
So, for example, this stuff here, my name is Lance. This was an idea from 2020. Beiji and I were designing the game, but it didn't live on. Like, the other ones don't have the name.
We just know Lance.
So, if you want the avatars to start introducing themselves as a Easter egg, you can do that. But if it's extra, just remove it altogether.
You ever played like the Five Nights at Freddy's games? They have like a.
No, I haven't.
So there's like a whole bunch of Easter egg things. Like if you like touch the nose, it'll go like I don't know. Like maybe there's like a if you like look somewhere, like point your thing somewhere in particular, maybe you can give you a little Easter egg like this person is playing. I don't know.
No, like, what we can do, like,
Like maybe name tags.
in
or
this
something?
case of, this, for example, we don't have more sprites for the Lance character because I don't know, I don't remember why. By the way, all the characters were designed by Winnie Gu. She used to be a graduate student,
She drew
undergrad. Yeah, she's an amazing artist.
That's beautiful.
And then the first Della and Lance, it's the first iteration. We didn't update that. But then we updated Mira because Mira used to wear very short shorts, and that's was like not nice, like to objectify the women.
Kate harped on us about it.
But that's important.
Which is,
Like,
yeah, it was good. And then
Yeah.
we got into the discussion with the full group, and everyone agreed that
And
we
then-
should change it.
she also was able to update Lenny. When she was doing the second iteration, I asked Winnie to apply one technique for avatar design, which is like you just change the face and the arms. So she created like a body, like the torso and the limbs, like the lower limbs, the same position, but the upper limbs was like cut off and the face was empty. And then she created layers in Photoshop with different expressions. So our group also validated the different expressions to depending on the messages we wanted to convey during the game. There was like some faces that Lenny was like confused. And people said like we wouldn't want the person to be like feeling down while you're playing, just making them feel good and up. So Watershed Explorers does not reinforce negative feelings in order to try to maintain the user's affective domain up.
Can you pause the recording?
Yes. Pause recording. Oops. Where is that? So I'm still in play mode. So like we organize, like the settings panel is under the UI organizer, right? It's not under as a child, it's just under on the same level of the hierarchy. I mean, no, it's under the child, I'm sorry. The settings panel is a child of the canvas object. The canvas object, yes. The canvas object holds every specific canvas. For example, we have the settings page. I'm going to enable here manually. Like it's a panel, so it's living by itself under the main canvas. And we also have the credits page, which is another panel that lives under the canvas. So these buttons here, the main menu buttons, oops, oh good, it's somewhere. I didn't want that to start again. So if I click the options here, it's going to enable the settings panel. And I think if I click the X button here, it disables the setting panel. Similarly, if I click credits, it enables the credits page. I don't know why it disabled the main menu. Since it's a full screen thing here, it didn't need to. And it seems to have a script just for this main menu, which should be very simple and not very effective. Look at that. So this main menu, like you might merge it with something else. And if we click close here, it disables the credits page and enables the main menu again. How do I know it does that? Because it's working. But in the credits page, we have the page area header. So let me open the credits again. The same structure. Remember the design structure? Top header has the title, an icon, and the button. And the central panel has the main content. So in the header, we have the close button, and the close button has two on-click events. Like the button component has two on-click events. Credit page, when we click the close button, it's going to be disabled. So game object set active false, not checked. And the main menu, game object set active true. So we activate, we enable that game object whenever we click this button here. Something that we have now, it's the narration here. Notice that this narration object is enabled in the scene, but has nothing underneath. This is a shenanigan technique, because every scene, sometimes like to check whether it's going to run something or not, it looks for a game object of the main narration. I don't remember why, we can see that together. So sometimes in order not to lose time, we create these placeholder game objects that are empty just to satisfy the conditions of the code and to allow it to run. So in this case, narration has nothing, but it's doing some like assistive role underneath, under the hood in the code. We will see that whenever we get to the code that has this line.
Is that the case for this version, or do you think future versions don't use that?
It depends on you too.
Okay.
Because we highly rely on your like knowledge and programming mindset, because everything that is a contraption or shenanigan, it's because we didn't know when we needed to make it work somehow.
Okay.
Screen space canvas, it's disabled here, but I don't know why. It has nothing. So, and it doesn't even allow to be enabled because it's in runtime. When we cannot enable a game object, it's a script that is always saying in the update. But the button that is low, because it's always going to be something to do. So it's always going to be low for them. Like the big ones are the top ones.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
And like whenever they need to change of pace, like because they are stressed from the high ones, they will go to the low and do something that they can do easily, which is the that can be great. Well, I like your handwriting.
The point is, so you know, finish though.
Yeah.
If you see something
Do it.
Do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And let's describe the do it, Juan and John. How do you do it in this sense?
You mean like the optimize stuff? Or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just
What
like-
would be the mental process for you to do that effectively?
See, okay, first what I would do would be like, hey, whatever, first I'd see what the script's doing, test it, visually see it myself, and then use prior knowledge if I have it, or, obviously use the online sphere
Yeah, that's not yeah.
to help.
Juan, what about you?
Like,
Because Dr. Bodin said, like, you are dealing with the high level tests, but then you identified something that is like uh, something that is left behind, and it's just a shenanigan. How do you, whenever you see do it, how is it this do it organized for you not to get lost?
more or less someone selling controllers, like, okay, so what does it do? And like, and I would try to like change it, right? And yeah, and if I don't understand how to fix it, and yeah, like an online.
Okay, both of you gave the wrong answer. Because if you only rely on your technical knowledge, the project organization crumbles. When you see something that is not part of your current attention focus, you have to take notes in your daily log, say, need to do this.
I was going to say that.
Low priority.
Daily log.
And if you change,
Recorded daily log.
and if you change it, it's for everyone, okay, including myself. If we change gears, we need to make a note. I stopped doing this now, and I'm gonna do that. And then when you come back, you can know where you left off. Because if we just change gears, it's like ADHD mode. We are doing everything and we are doing nothing.
But a lot of this, that's not weird. A lot of things important to you. If you say, hey, I'm going to do a code script and here's where I did it. Because the chances are, you want to record what you did in the work log, the exact script
Yeah.
change. The chances are that change is not going to have to be applied to other places. Other scenes.
So, I mean, I was just joking, like, the answer
Yeah.
you gave about the technical process, that's it. I trust you. But we need you to level up that one as well, like, me too, I'm also doing that, trying to do that. Another thing that I started doing recently, like, I am putting the time, the hours. He has always asked me, like, for 6 years, how long do you think it's going to take for you to do that? I don't know.
But
But
every time we think, it always takes 2 or 3 times.
so, but how do we know how to multiply by 3 what time? So I started doing, I realized that I'm taking 30 minutes now after 6 years. But before it was hours, right? But I only know this because I sit down, I put my 3 goals, and I said, start at such hour. And I start doing and like putting screen. I always end with a snapshot of the Unity screen for me to see like done, right? And I say like completed at such hour. Then I go to the next one, started. Because then I have an idea of how long it takes. Because if it takes more than 1 hour, you already need to ask for help. Because you are likely being attracted to a rabbit hole for it. Okay?
Since y'all are working together in the lab too, use each other.
Yeah.
Alright, let's continue. Game menu, done. I'm gonna stop here. The next scene after the game menu, once oh, by the way, we already tried the options, right? No.
Yeah.
Wait. On-screen help. This is something we have to decide. On the desktop version, we are always like showing things to remind the player, but we have space. In the headset version, there's no space. So in the desktop version, I allowed them to like, I don't want to have any help. So I click here, no. So the reminders don't appear. Tooltips are disabled as well because maybe they are bothered by tooltips. So if it's no, we click the button. One variable is saved like 0 in the player prefs on-screen help. 0 is no help. 1 help activated, right? So this is not working because when we did Watershed Explorers, using audio and music was not our priority, but it's still here as a placeholder, and we have at least the background natural sound, we do have that. And here the language changes. For example,
Yep.
everything goes because I'm going to show you the other script. This is a very good place to show because it's simpler, right? But this same process is repeated everywhere. Like the buttons here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the start. There is a holder, right? This holder, I have put a vertical layout group which automatically organizes the UI icons vertically. For example, if I disable this, like something should happen and destroy, but no. Start button. On the start button, we are like clicking and it's reading something, load next photos here, and this REST controller is off. REST controller was the second attempt that I tried to do a safe database. So we are totally removing REST controller, and I can help you identify these files. What I want to show you here is the text. So in the text game object, we have a script called text localizer UI. So the text localizer UI has one open a public variable called key, and this is the code that we use to access the text database, and then we print what is there. So the text localizer is living under the scripts folder, localization folder, and it's like a family member of the language manager because they work together. So if I don't even to open the, what is that again? Is it here? No, it's not here. No, not here. Good. So the file that has all text lives in the resources folder. This is a question I made myself this week and I am sharing with you. I don't know if this was influenced by some tutorial I watched or Unity needs to have the resources main folder under the assets folder. Look at that. We have assets and resources is here. So I have used resources in iVR0 to change sprites, pictures, and I'm using resources folder here in iVR1 for the text. But you could check for us if it's a matter of typing the path in the script or if this is something that Unity natively does, like by finding the resources folder and loading something. Inside the resource folder, we have lots of pictures that I was in the same system to replace images that I use in iVR0. But we also have this text file called test. Here you can already see the structure, but I'm going to open that. Oh, I opened the wrong one. No. Test. So Visual Studio can open text delineated stuff, but I'm going to be showing with this Excel. So the first column is the key. So here, the start button, the code is 000 start. Why? We type 000 start. Where is that again? Here, in the text localizer UI, here, the variable name is key. The first column, key. The code is start.
Where's that spreadsheet?
It's in the resources folder.
Okay.
It's the test file. It opened as a spreadsheet because in this computer, this file is default to open with Excel. But like in my computer, I usually open with Visual Studio because it's faster to read. Sometimes it's not faster, but anyways. But then you see like the second column is EN, which is English. So if the language set is English, so this code looks for the second column and that start. Currently, it's showing inicio, which is starting Spanish. So it means that the language set in the language manager is Spanish. Remember we saw the language manager in the beginning? So it's Spanish. So while the language manager and the player prep has Spanish as the sage value, the entire game is going to be in Spanish because we use the database system to translate the game. Okay? This is already working in VR with no changes needed, which is great. So Beiji, Jennifer, and I, congratulations. We did a great job in 2020. All right, let's go back here. I'm not gonna play in Spanish because I speak Portuguese. All right, this is the end of the first scene. We have seen lots of stuff. Uh, you can see in the game mechanics for this first scene that one, game mechanics, it's a prefab. I don't recommend you to keep this structure. I recommend you to break this prefab, like, and I can even do this now to show you because I'm not going to save what I'm doing here. Whenever you have a blue object in the hierarchy, it means that it's an instance of a prefab. Simply put, a prefab is a clone of a game object or a collection of game objects you prepared before. So if we go to the prefab folder in our project, we might see game mechanics. But then it's all empty because this is the original structure of the collection of game objects. But once you drag and drop and use this instance of the prefab, you need to populate with the other variables, right? So prefabs help us visually with these blue lines here, if you can see. Everything that is blue means it's a local change. You haven't applied this change to the original prefab. So it helps you keep track of every scene. Sometimes you have to change the variables for every scene. So uh, sometimes, for example, we have this removed here. We removed the script because it's no longer needed, but we didn't apply to the prefab because we didn't know whether we would need to reactivate that. So for now it's like this, but for you, you should make a cleaner version. How do we do that? One, after you make you drag and drop and you make an instance of the prefab in the hierarchy, click with the right button, go to prefab, and you say unpack. So it becomes gray. Again, it's a normal game object. All the blue lights disappeared. The reference to the old scripts that were removed disappeared. Why? This is not a prefab anymore. This is an individual game mechanics object that I'm using here. If I ever want to go, oh, what was the game mechanics like again? Drag another instance here, and then you can see everything that is under game. I'm sorry, I dragged to the wrong place. Control Z. So I need to drag the game mechanics on top of game mechanics here. So this one that I selected, it's not blue. The other one that is blue, it's an instance of the prefab. So we have everything. Okay. And this one has no blue lights because I just imported, like I just made this copy in this scene. I didn't make any changes yet. You can see that the time events are empty, la la la. Let's say that I activate the time events. I'm gonna get a blue line here because I need a local change. All right? So, but I don't want to use this. Why? Oh, there's another thing that we could do. Like when I unpacked the prefab, I didn't unpack everything. I just unpacked the parent prefab. You see that I still have another nested prefab: sphere loader, audio manager, and crossfade. Crossfade is the system that makes this black fader in the beginning of each scene. I'm disabling so we can see what's behind it. Uh, what I'm gonna do here is to make another instance of the game mechanics prefab to show you like everything is blue. So cancel. What is the difference between the game objects that are opaque with a blue box and the game objects that are transparent? I'm sorry?
The blue ones are green.
So the blue ones that have the box like opaque with the blue color, it's because they are also prefabs, right? Just like Juan said. The event system and the main camera, they are transparent here because they are not prefabs to begin with. So I know just by looking at the game mechanics prefab that I have 1, 2, 3, nested prefabs. So we have actually 4 prefabs being used here: game mechanics, sphere loader, audio manager, and crossfade. In your case, because you are doing a new iteration and you are going to be moving stuff, you can sometimes like unpack all the prefabs all together. So if I click the parent, go to prefab, and go unpack completely, I will also unpack the children prefab. See? Now all the game objects are individual. They are not prefabs anymore. So
But the advantage of, correct me if I'm wrong, of having the prefab is if, I think it's going to be more applied to maybe the photo strips. If there's, in those scenes, if there's prefabs, if you were to make edits and changes to the prefab, and that's going to have prefabs, and then just apply automatically to all the other photo strips because it's a prefab. And you're working below in the assets prefabs,
Yeah.
right? So if changes are made there, and you think, all right, we change this in the photosphere and realize this is in every photosphere. Let's make this change here, and then that automatically just applies to all the other prefabs where you have it loaded in the scene.
for example, we have this sphere loader prefab. I mean, no, this is terrible. Settings panel prefab. Let's imagine that this settings panel, we saw that the size is not correct, right? So for us to apply the correction of the size for all the scenes that already exist, we would need to go inside the prefab. So just like Dr. Bozin said, we select the prefab here in the project folder, and we open the prefab. Another way of opening a prefab is when you have a prefab used in the hierarchy, so it's an instance of a prefab, you have an arrow to the right. So if you click the arrow, you open that prefab. So I want to open the settings panel. The settings panel is here as well because we use the settings panel instance in all the scenes. But let's say that the size of the settings panel is wrong. So I click here. You should not use the game view in prefab mode because it only shows the prefab in the scene view. And you see here that down below that we are in scenes settings panel. So everything behind the prefab, it's grayed out because it's not what you're working with. And this here is the prefab. So what we identified is that the size of the canvas of the panel for the options was wrong. So remember I shared the strategy of the settings container. So I come here and I am gonna improve the size of this and this. So if I save the prefab, all the instances across all scenes are gonna be changed. So you gotta be careful. It's powerful, but you can also do lots of things, right? So I'm gonna undo this because that's not our case. Pay attention, like please, don't do anything before you check this corner here, because Unity usually defaults the auto save in the prefab. Okay?
Why don't we say that people are eating out there one of us?
So I'm gonna finish this prefab and then we'll go. So make sure you uncheck the autosave, and only if you make changes and you know you want to apply, you click the save button. Once you want to exit the prefab mode, you can click here, the arrow next, it's very small, look at that space. So you go back because you returned to the scene view of the entire scene. And then we will pause the video.